Welcome to another B&B Quickie. And this time it's my turn. Fanboy Tone is taking the night off on the B&B Quickies. What's going on, Forge Hammer? And tonight it's my turn, man. I get to talk about some movies and shit. Really excited to talk about the movie we're going to be talking about tonight. I ran a poll probably about, I think it was right about a week and a half ago, where I asked folks on Twitter, what are some of these, I think I put up 3 90s movies, movies in the 90s that were kind of obscure. They maybe didn't get the recognition they deserved. And 3 of them were 1993's Judgment Night, starring Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Jeremy Piven, Stephen Dorff. Just a really good cast, and that was an action movie. We looked at 1994's No Escape, starring Ray Liotta and Stuart Wilson, Lance Henriksen. Just a really, really good cast there as well. Ernie Hudson was in that. And then I threw up, because those were action movies. I'm like, I love action movies from the 90s. Some of them are really, really underrated. And I also decided to throw in there The Relic, which is from 1997. It's like a horror thriller. There's some sci-fi elements to it. I mean, it's a pretty wild movie. It's a monster flick. One that I actually kind of appreciated. I thought it was actually really, really good. I enjoyed my time. I watch it every time it's on TV. It's one of those movies where, you see it on TV and you're like, oh shit, man, I haven't watched this in since yesterday. So you turn it on and like, yeah, I gotta watch this right now. And but I put it up there and I didn't think anyone would vote for it. And it's it's very obscure, but it ended up winning, which was pretty sweet. What's up, Josh? Yes, it's a very creepy monster, and we'll talk about the Cathoga here in a little bit. But The Relic launched in 1997. It was supposed to actually come out in the fall, late. I think it was supposed to come out in August of 96. There were some delays on its release, some production setbacks, and they ended up pushing the movie out to January of 1997. Now, January and February are typically like the dumping grounds for movies. So, Paramount was, you take that, it's coming out in January where movies typically just go to die. And it stars Tom Sizemore, Penelope Ann Miller. Now, these two are very talented actors. They're very, very good at what they do, but they've always been kind of like in the supporting roles. They've never been like the leads in too many movies. I know Penelope is aging very gracefully, very, very well. But I mean, like Tom Sizemore, memorable roles in stuff like Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, Strange Days, and one of my personal favorites, Passenger 57. That probably could have made the list. I believe that was 1990. That could have made the list. He was Sly Del Vecchio, the guy on the ground, as Wesley Snipes is whooping everyone's ass in the plane above. And beat up on Charles Rain. I think that's his name, Charles Rain. Tom Sizemore has always been kind of like a good supporting character. He has always been very convincing in his movies. He's always a good support character. Always enjoyed his work back in the 90s and whatnot. The creature reminded me of the Predator if it were a werewolf predator. I see what you did there. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at it, and it does. There are some. It's pretty crazy, like how many different creatures were used to kind of inspire the Cathoga. And then you got Penelope Ann Miller. She was in Carlito's Way, The Shadow, The Freshman. She was also the mom in Kindergarten Cop. She's the mom of the son whose dad is like a nut job. But yeah, she's the teacher across the hall that's basically saving Arnold Schwarzenegger's life every day as he continues to just flounder as a teacher. So I mean, you have and then it's also directed by an underrated director who kind of has his own way of doing films and shooting films, particularly the way that are shot. Peter Hyams. He has directed a plethora of movies that are, I don't want to say they're cult classics, but they're movies that, you don't really remember them, but when you do watch his flicks, you're like, you know what, these are entertaining. These are rather entertaining. And Peter Hyams had a decent run from the mid 80s to through the 90s. Started in 1986 where he directed Running Scared, which was like a comedy cop thriller. starring Billy Crystal and the late Gregory Hines. 1988 rolled around. He did The Presidio, which was a big flick with Mark Harmon, Meg Ryan, and Sean Connery. Skip ahead a couple years, he had his big hit. Arguably his biggest movie was Time Cop, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Time Cop was actually a very entertaining flick. And then he followed that up the next year. He stuck with Van Damme for another year with 1995's Sudden Death. The one where it pits him against the always just dependable Powers Booth, the late Powers Booth, as the villain. I mean, he always find like it's cool when you look at like Peter Hyams and the way he gets his movies. He gets reliable actors for their leads. I mean, they might not be huge stars, but reliable actors. But, you know, I don't know if you want to, you know, classify Jean-Claude Van Damme as a reliable actor, but Powers Booth is obviously very menacing, and he basically is a more sophisticated Wild Bill, you know, or Curly Bill from Tombstone. That's pretty much the character he plays in Sudden Death. Jump ahead 4 more years. He comes out. Peter Hyams directs End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Gabriel Byrne. Another movie that is just kind of bizarre, but it has some like entertainment value to it, you know, because of how goofy some of it gets. And then we haven't seen anything from Peter Hyams since 2013 because the last movie he directed, and it's fitting, stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Enemies Closer. So he finished out in 2013. We haven't heard from Peter Hyams since. But I mean, look, you know, the guy is never won an Oscar. He was never going to be an Oscar-winning director. But some of the movies he put out have like small little followings, and I appreciate a lot of these films. A lot of these films I will sit down and watch. You know, no matter how ridiculous some of them get. Sudden Death is an incredibly ridiculous movie. End of Days is an incredibly ridiculous movie. But it kind of gives you an idea of what types of movies he is directing, and he always has like this certain flair about his movies. They're all shot with like almost this black filter over the camera. Everything is like a lot darker than it really needs to be. The Relic, there are some scenes where you can barely make out what the hell's going on, and it's the same with all of his movies. All of his movies have this strange filter, and it's a bizarre look, but it kind of gives a film-esque look to it as well. Like, it looks like a movie. It doesn't look like it was shot with like a digital camera. It looks like that nice film look. You know, it's really bizarre. He just added like an extra layer of darkness to his his shots. But you know, I when we talk about the Relic, again, the biggest issue that Paramount had with the Relic was that it was, you know, first of all, it's coming out in January, and then it didn't have any like bankable stars tied to it. You know, when you run out a movie, you know, typically if you see Tom Sizemore and Penelope Ann Miller headlining, nobody knows this fucking movie's coming out. You know, nobody's gonna be like, oh my god, the new Tom Sizemore movie's coming out. This was like basically his first leading role. Same with Penelope Ann Miller. So Paramount was fully expecting this to be a bomb at the box office. Surprisingly, though, pulled in $10 million its opening weekend on a $40 million budget, which was 5 times higher than Paramount was projecting, which is pretty interesting. You take a monster movie with no big budget stars, put it out in the shit time of the year, and it still manages to make 5 times what they were expecting it. Not a total box office dud, but obviously this movie barely hit 40 million in its entire run worldwide. So I mean, or I'm sorry, about 50 million I think it made. Just so when you include marketing, which I don't think there was much for this movie. I mean, nobody was plastering the shit. Taco Bell wasn't buying up the rights to have it on the, you know, it wasn't like Demolition Man, which was an awesome movie. That movie might make it on one of the lists here too. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked already. But The Relic is based on a best-selling 1995 novel by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And basically, this is described as an Aliens meets Jurassic Park, where it involves like this anthropologist who consumes a virus through a ritual ceremony in South America. And as he's trying to travel back to the States, he sends all of his stuff back. Something comes back with him. And The Relic was good, but I feel like more would have killed it. Oh yeah, I mean, it was like, you mean like the length of it? Or what do you mean by when you say more would have killed it? I'm curious. Had Taco Bell for dinner? I did not have Taco Bell for dinner. I want Taco Bell right now. But welcome to the Xenomorphic Park. So yeah, but basically what this is Detective Augusta that's Tom Sizemore. He's investigating these bizarre murders at this museum where Penelope and Miller is working, and that's where the anthropologist had sent his boxes. It's a straightforward monster flick. The monster shows up, it starts wiping out people. The museum gets put on lockdown in the middle of this huge display that they got like all the richest people in Chicago there, and this monster is basically going throughout the museum picking off people one by one. It's a straightforward monster movie, but the thing that's really impressive about it that I really like is the Cathoga itself. And when you want a monster in your movie, when you want a good-looking monster in your movie, there's only one person that you go to, and that's Stan Winston. Okay, so the Cathoga was designed by Stan Winston, arguably. I mean, it's not even arguably one of the best like special effects like monster creators ever. The guy he's an unbelievable talent when it comes to creating like these insanely like detailed and specifically looking like creatures. Not Carol Baskin, no. But if you take a look here, you can see the Cathoga, and I can see where somebody mentioned the Predator. Kind of looks like the Predator. It does with the front of the face. It's just look at this. This thing is this hulking creature, and then and this is how elaborate it was. I mean, there was somebody inside of it. They also had like 3 or 4 technicians working the mandibles and the mouth and moving its muscles and snarling and all this stuff. So they had like 7 or 8 people, including the stunt person inside, operating this mammoth creature. Nothing like a monster that needs to eat brains to survive. Yeah, and I love the tagline for this movie. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, especially if you're hungry. That's I actually think that's a really, really good tagline. I like that a lot. But the Cathoga was based on the description in the original novel. The lead concept artist Mark Crash McCreary, he made a number of designs for Peter Hyams for him to choose which one he really wanted. And the final design of the Cathoga had a spider-like head and a 15-foot long body that was like a amalgam of a lion, an alligator, and a horse, detailed with reptilian scales and tufts of hair down the spine. Who the fuck comes up with this stuff? Stan Winston comes up with this stuff. I mean, this creature is wild. I mean, throughout the entire movie, there's a lot of CGI, especially for some of the scenes where the creature has to be incredibly mobile, and it's like heavy action shots, it's CGI. But man, some of the scenes where you're up close on the Cathoga, it is really, really cool. I mean, it's really well done. You can appreciate the animatronics that are involved in it, the stunt person inside. It's a work of many people to give you this authentic looking creature. I mean, this is a wild concept. I mean, typically in a movie when you see monsters, you think of Godzilla. It's just a huge lizard. Or in other movies, it's just one creature that's been like either morphed into something else, or it's just been blown up 10 times. This thing is a hybrid of a spider, a lion, an alligator, a horse, detailed with reptilian scales and tufts of hair down the spine. That is so cool. That's fucking wild. And I remember its wheezing sound scared the yes. It's kind of got like this, and it's very, very creepy. Once you heard that, you knew somebody's about to get their fucking head bit off. I mean, it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. But so yeah, that's what the Cathoga looked like. And I forgot to run the trailer here. We'll take a look at the trailer for a moment. Like I said, when this comes out, nobody's expecting this to be like a huge movie. And like I said, you can kind of see some of the shots that are with this dark like tint over the camera. I mean, just I love monster movies. I don't know about you guys, but I love monster movies. I know, Tone, you're a big fan of monster movies. You love like kaiju. I know you love all that shit. But I love these kind of like just these old. This was like an 80s monster movie in the 90s.
According to museum security, you were the last one to leave last night. Did you see or hear anything strange?
Well, I thought I heard something as I was leaving, but it could have been anything.
Sweeping teams of two. Nobody goes in alone. This place is not going to open until every room is clear.
Google Tom Sizemore.
Come out, wherever you are. Any idea about a weapon?
It's really disappointing because he got...
The board is hosting a gala preview here tomorrow night. It would be a disaster for us if we had to postpone.
We may have somebody on our hands who makes Jeffrey Dahmer look like a Cub Scout. You have to let the gala go on. Something's wrong. Mama, what's the matter with you?
Scene right here in the water, that was wild. Especially when it comes up behind him. The producers.
33% Homo sapien.
Yeah, the mayor. Yeah.
What are you talking about? Gradual extinction of the human race.
There's the guy from the dude in the wheelchair. There's one part that's nasty as fuck in this movie when the Cathoga has like Penelope and where she comes around the front. He's like licking her and everything. It's really gross. It's really gross. He's all slimy and shit. But I mean, like I said, man, if that trailer comes out in the 90s, I don't know if anyone's actually getting particularly hyped about it because, like I said, it's just no big name leads, which is hilarious because Peter Hyams' first choice. Okay, we have a movie here with Tom Sizemore as your lead actor. Okay. But Peter Hyams' first choice for Detective D'Augusta was Harrison Ford. I mean, talk about aiming high. You got a $40 million a budget, which isn't much. You got Stan Winston making a hell of a creature. And your first choice is Harrison Ford. I want to know how many steps down that went to get to Tom Sizemore. Like, I couldn't find the actual list. But when Harrison Ford is your first choice and you end up with Tom Sizemore, nothing against Tom Sizemore at the time. I have a lot against Tom Sizemore right now. But how the hell do you drop down from Harrison Ford to Tom Sizemore? I mean, that probably changes your budget by what, $20 million? That's just wild. I thought that was really funny that was Peter Hyams' first choice. But at the same time, you look at Peter Hyams' track record, he's always been able to get like really, really good actors. I mean, Mark Harmon Mark Harmon was awesome in Summer School, but like in the Presidio. But he managed to get like Sean Connery. In the 80s, Sean Connery was a big name. This could be a Netflix movie if it came out today. Oh, absolutely, Al Blanco. This would definitely be a Netflix movie, and I'd be super happy. Does the movie make way more money with Sizemore? Does the movie make... No. Oh, does the movie make... Oh, absolutely. I think so. Harrison Ford? Hell yeah. Harrison Ford brings people to the theater in January. Harrison Ford will bring people to the theater any time of the year. Tom Sizemore doesn't have that kind of draw. Do you think the furries are into this movie with the monster costume? Probably not. But I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, let me ask you something. If you saw this Relic trailer playing out, directed by Peter Hyams of, Time Cop, and instead of Tom Sizemore walking out, Harrison Ford walks out. Doesn't that pulls in more interest? Way more, right? Like way more interest if you have Harrison Ford in this. But does it make it a box office success? I don't know if it would be one of his $100 million movies. But then again, in the late 90s, Harrison Ford had that stretch where he I want to say it was 1997 when he did maybe it was 96 where he did the Robert Zemeckis horror movie, What Lies Beneath. And then he had a couple other movies that dropped in after that where they weren't like huge hits. I think The Widowmaker was one. I think like the last big hit before any of those was in 97 was Air Force One. The trailer changes a lot too, more Ford in the trailer. Oh, I mean, dude, if Harrison Ford were in this movie, he would have been in the entire trailer would have been him just walking around. That's all it would have been. But no, yeah, I think it would have been really good with Harrison Ford. But at the same time, I can appreciate the workmanlike quality of it. I mean, Tom Sizemore is actually pretty good. And he shows, I think, in this movie that he could have been a reliable leading man. I don't know if he would have been a big budget star, but I mean, he carries the movie fine. He does a decent job. He's always had like that charisma. He's always had the ability to, that scruffy, rough type. He had that, he was a tough guy. He was a tough guy. And I think Tom Sizemore was good in this movie. He was a good fit for it. Penelope Ann Miller was decent as well. But when you do a movie like this, the Cathoga is the fucking star. It doesn't really matter. Once you get Harrison Ford out of the equation, and that might have been it too, man. Hey, look, Harrison Ford's here, but hey, look, we spent a lot of money on this fucking Cathoga. This is gonna be the star of the show. So I mean, it's really interesting to think about. But I love the fact that Peter Hyams, his first choice for this was Harrison Ford. I think that's absolutely hilarious. And then he just goes like, well, let's just go get Tom Sizemore then. I want to see was Tom Sizemore on the short list? Or was there a really long list and he was just kind of like, oh shit, he just did he was in Saving Private Ryan, so let's get him in this. So yeah, no, it was expected to be a bomb. It did okay at the box office. And from all intents and purposes, it basically broke even. Cuba Gooding Jr. would have been fine too. Yeah, this would have been the type. This was very similar to the other movies I was going to showcase or to talk about, which was like No Escape and Judgment Night. All those movies have good actors in movies that are just kind of crazy, kind of goofy. And any of those would have benefited from like a Harrison Ford, but everyone in those movies gives a good performance. Everyone is believable. Everyone does their part in moving the narrative along. I always like the science in these kind of movies. That's why I think I like this a lot. They go into the science of the monster. Yeah, and it's obviously it's a monster movie, so it's far-fetched, but they do some cool stuff to kind of figure out how they discover the origins of the creature. That kind of shit was really, really cool when they kind of dig into the DNA and try to figure out where the fuck this thing came from. Yeah, that stuff was really, really cool. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a monster movie, so any effort to put into it to kind of give it some intelligence, I appreciate. But at the end of the day, there's just that ceiling where you're just like, okay, it's a monster. So you're kind of like, okay, we'll just, it's whatever. Don't take it too seriously. It's a Cathoga. What else we got? I want something else to get me through this semi-charmed kind of life. To a degree, almost before its time. I think this could have a legit remake. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. It might have been ahead of its time, but I feel like it had a place in the 90s. It kind of fit what the 90s was in terms of like some of the movies. The action movies were kind of goofy. Everything, some of the dramas were kind of goofy. The horror movies were kind of goofy. The 90s were a really strange era for movies. They were really, really strange. I mean, there were some great movies, don't get me wrong, but there was like this transitional period from the poppy 80s to when we got to the 2000s and forward. But yeah, there was just the 90s were a strange time for movies. Some of the stuff worked really, really good, like The Relic, and some of it was really, really bad, like Waterworld. Right, Tone? Right, Tone. Yeah, it's just if you get a chance, if you haven't watched it yet, I know some of you have. Josh, I know you said you liked it. Tone, what were your thoughts on it? I mean, I want to get you guys' thoughts. If you've watched this movie, if you're in the chat and you've seen this, make sure you sign off. I want to get your thoughts on what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. If there was anything I didn't like, it was the mayor was just kind of just a bumbling idiot, stuck inside and outside as well. There was another character, Linda Hunt's character was actually really good. She runs the museum. She was actually pretty good in it. But there was the guy that was competing with Penelope Ann Miller for a grant in the movie. He was really kind of annoying. He was super annoying. I didn't like that guy at all. I was glad he got his comeuppance early on. Just a really annoying character. Pain in the ass. Indeed he was. I liked the movie. I never saw it. I felt it had a lot of potential. Like it was so close to being great. So close. My internet is out until Monday, so I'm going to watch this movie tomorrow. Check it out, Josh. It's on Amazon, it's on Amazon Prime right now. If you're a subscriber, it's available now. Check it out. Was that Fred Meyer in the wheelchair? Not a hole trying to support my friends. I am not drinking Shorts Brewing. I got all those things on. I apologize for that. But overall, man, it was a really, really, it was a good flick. I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's one of those movies where you forget about it the moment you're done watching it, but when it comes on, you're like, oh fuck yeah, man, I like this movie. And I feel like that's like what a lot of the movies in the 90s were. Like you forget a lot about them, but then when they're on, you're like, oh yeah, I love this movie. I mean, it's like a strange love that you forget about as soon as it's done. But Let me see what else. There was a couple other things I wanted to talk about with it. Do they say the relic in the movie? You know, I don't think I can't remember, because there is an item that somebody is cleaning up, and it would be a relic. It's like that Cathoga relic, but I don't know if they actually refer to it as the relic. Because you guys remember there's that one item that lady is cleaning and fixing. That is clearly a relic, but at no point do I remember them saying, hey, there's the relic. But yeah, that's like the Cathoga thing that she's cleaning up. That would be considered a relic, but nobody actually calls it a relic, which is interesting. But overall, I mean, this movie is with critics, I think it was sitting at about a 55 at Metacritic. But you know, it was funny when this movie came out. At the time, it was always Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. They were the who's who of reviews, and they gave it 2 thumbs up. So you better fucking believe, on every poster, in every box, DVD jewel case, and VHS box, it had 2 thumbs up from Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. Well, if you had that on your box, that's all that mattered. That was going to move a small movie. That was going to draw interest when it came out on VHS and DVD. 2 thumbs up from those guys, so that really kind of like was the the last second change to the promo, was to make sure to get the Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert on the box. Guess what's on my box right now? Oh boy, I feel like I'm getting set up for this. The more science they use for a creature that's not bogus, that shit sticks with you, right? I preferred Men on Movies, better critic. 3 snaps in Z formation, and what was the other one? 2 snaps, a twist, and a kiss. It was a Blaine and what's this other guy's name? Blaine and something. I can't remember their names. Men on Movies, Men on Film. I think that's what it was called. Men on Film. Living Color was a fucking sweet show, dude. Living Color was a fucking Blaine and Merriweather. Love the Relic. Cody Deacon's in there. He loved the Relic. It's a good flick, dude. I'm telling you, it's one of those movies that you just, it jumps up and you're like, hey man, this movie's sweet. Yeah, the backstory was the village in the jungle would let an animal or something eat those plants. Then they would hide and let the monsters eat their enemies, then die when no more brains were left. I know, man. Wild. But yeah, dude, go back to Living Color. Oh my god, I can't even tell you how many of those episodes stuck with me growing up. I mean, that shit was hilarious. Jim Carrey was amazing. The Wayans brothers were amazing. And like the one skit that I keep going back to, and I wish I could pull it up. I don't know if I could or not. I don't have it set up to where I could show. I might be able to. I don't know if I can. But there's one where it was like 3 champs and a little lady. It was like a play on three men and a baby. Where I think it's like Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and maybe like Ali. And they have this daughter, so it's 3 champs and a little lady, and then Jim Carrey comes over to take her out, like out to either prom or out on a date. And he comes in, he's all gangly, he's like, hi. And they're giving him the rundown of like, you know, don't do this. And one of them's like, hey, you know, you be good tonight, buddy. And he gives like a little tap on the chin, and like Jim Carrey just spits up blood and like he's knocked out. It's absolutely fucking hilarious. 3 champs and a little lady. And a little lady. Look that skit up. It's probably on YouTube. It's absolutely fucking hilarious. I got to see Tommy Davidson 2 years ago. Still funny. Really? Is he like doing stand up? I didn't know Tommy Davidson was still doing stand up. That's fucking sweet. I always liked Tommy Davidson. He was funny as hell too. Wasn't he in Ace Ventura 2? He was like he was like one of the village, like the warrior. Like he was that small dude that was just fucking nuts. He was really funny in that. I loved him in that. Homie Don't Play That, Homie the Clown, Fire Marshal Bill. I mean, some fucking iconic characters, man. Iconic characters. God, I think I actually still have the DVD set, like 2 of the seasons. I've got those somewhere down here somewhere. But God, Living Color was such a good show. It reminded me a lot of. Did you guys ever see Mr. Show with Bob and David? With Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. It was on HBO for a while, and then it came back on Netflix for a short stint, but it didn't have any of the same charm as the seasons that were on HBO. I think it was like 2 or 3 seasons on HBO. There was a small falling out between David and Bob, They had since, rekindled and got everything back together, and then they went back to Netflix and tried to, revive the show there, but it didn't go over quite as well. But on HBO, man, Mr. Show with Bob and David was one of the more, I would say it was one of the most underrated comedy sketch shows ever. It was so good. It was so good. The way these sketches all played out. Like, how when you watch Saturday Night Live, they do a sketch, and then they do something, there's like no segue to the next sketch. They're not related at all. Like, every sketch is its own thing. But the beauty of Mr. Show with Bob and David is how every sketch that they did, they would Mother, Father, Chinese Dentist, the dub over, where they do instead of Goodfellas, it's called Pallies. It's like the Sunday morning like cable version of Goodfellas, like with everything edited out. And it has all the stuff like the voiceover dubs and the blurring of like the middle finger, so they do something different. Yeah, that episode was sweet. Where they do it's like they make fun of like Goodfellas, but it's called Pallies. It's really, really funny. It's really, really good. But yeah, Mr. Show just had a way to, like, the way they segued from every skit, the way it began and the way it ended would tie into the next skit. It wasn't a lot. I mean, some of it was live. I think the beginning and end were live, but everything else in between was taped and edited. And the way that each skit would end would somehow play into the storyline of the next skit. It was just one continuous sketch. Even though each sketch was completely unrelated in terms of what the joke was, there was always that transition between the two. That was really, really cool because it was just nonstop. It was just consistent, and it was hilarious, man. They did some funny shit. Some of the stuff I can't talk about on here due to Twitch has rules and whatnot, but some of that shit was really, really funny. If you guys get a chance, check out Mr. Show with Bob and David. Big fan of that one. That was a great show. Isn't there a term for that? The continuity? Yeah, I guess the continuity would work, but I mean, it's just the continuity in my mind is like everything is continuing along a certain path where everything's related. It's just like this weird where you segue into new material, where you segue from one topic or one theme to another one. There's that transition over to a new theme. Where I think of continuity, I think of like it's the same theme or the same storyline. Going throughout, but it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain and put it into words, but it was super clever. Never been a fan of David Cross. Really, man. I haven't seen all of his shows though. To be honest with you, I never saw. What was the one with Jason Bateman? It was on HBO. It was one of the bigger shows he went on. It was an all-star cast. I'm hit or miss with him. Panic. I like him. Arrested Development. There you go. There it is, Tone. Good call. I never saw that show, but I heard he was really, really good in that. But I loved him on Mr. Show with Bob and David. I love him in some of the movies. Like, he plays such a droll character in some of the shows that he's in, some of the movies that he's in. Like, I loved him in Men in Black. I don't know if you guys remember him. Like, he was working at the morgue, and he's just a fucking jerk. When the bug shows up, just an asshole, dude. Never saw Arrested Development, The Boys, or Ozark. Yeah, but I do watch. I watched Sopranos. I watched Game of Thrones. I watched. Hey, come on! Yeah, The View. Hey, man, The View is a good show. The View is a good show. Yeah, he's also good in Scary Movie. What's wrong with The View? What's wrong with The View, man? What do you got? What do you got against The View? I thought The View was a good show. I was a big fan of The View. Gosh, I mean, I could talk TV show, I could talk movies and shit all day, you guys. I mean, I really could, and I'm really happy that we got to talk about The Relic, because I really do feel like it's an underrated movie, that is worth a watch. So if you get a chance, check it out. I think for the next couple of quickies, I'm going to address the other two movies that were in the poll. We'll look at Judgment Night, and then we'll take a look at No Escape. Two movies that are seriously very unique. And they ride a lot on the performances in those ones. Like this one, it's more so about the Kathoga and the scares and the gore, and there's a lot of that. Whereas No Escape is a sci-fi movie that has a really cool idea. It stars, again, like that's Ray Liotta and Stuart Wilson. And Stuart Wilson, he was the bad guy in Lethal Weapon 3. Stuart Wilson is one of those charismatic bad guys where, I'm telling you, man, for my money, in an action movie, it's only as good as the villain. Okay, an action movie is only as good as the villain, and Stuart Wilson is one of those guys. He plays the villain in No Escape. Really, he's so fucking over the top. He's hilarious, but he's super violent. He's got like a temper. He's always on edge, and he compliments Ray Liotta very well. And then you've got just like an awesome supporting cast. You got Lance Henriksen, another guy that is just synonymous with sci-fi. You know, he's been in Predator, he's been in AVP, he's been in Aliens, he's been in Terminator, Pumpkinhead. I mean, Lance Henriksen is one of the all-time greats, guys. I don't give a fuck when anyone says Lance Henriksen is one of the all-time greats. He's in it. Ernie Hudson is in it. That's Winston Zeddemore from Ghostbusters. What's Matt Dillon's brother's name? Kevin Dillon. Kevin Dillon's in it. It's No Escape is a good flick, you guys. It's super hard to find. Like, in order to find the Blu-ray, I had to buy like the Europe version. I had to buy the UK version. I believe over there it's called Escape from Absalom. But I could not find No Escape in the States. It was very, very difficult to find, but I had to get it on Blu-ray because it's seriously one of the more underrated, just obscure titles from the 90s. I would compare to some of these to some of the better sci-fi Saturday night flicks. No Escape, that's a pretty good comparison. But it's entertaining. Like, No Escape is really good. I'm really excited to talk about that. And Judgment Night is, again, that's with Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Jeremy Piven, Dennis Leary. Another movie where the bad guy, Dennis Leary, he's awesome in it. He's really, really good in it. And it's a simple-minded plot. But it's done in workmanlike fashion. It's really, really good. Not Omar Epps. It's Cuba Gooding Jr. Omar Epps isn't in that. What are you talking about? Are you confusing Cuba Gooding Jr. with Omar Epps? He's not in that. What are you talking about? Honest Vision on TNT. I'm a sucker for B-rated sci-fi flicks. Then Tone, you will definitely like No Escape. In fact, dude, if you want, I'll let you borrow the Blu-ray next time you come over. You can take it home. Enough said. Judgment Night was great. It absolutely was great. It's an awesome movie. Dennis Leary fucking is just so good, and that was at a time where Dennis Leary was kind of like, I think he had that one album came out where he did like has Asshole on it or something like that. He was known for his rants. I think he was big on MTV at the time, and then he got cast in this, and his right hand man in this movie is the lead singer from House of Pain. House of Pain is his right-hand man, and then the other guy that's with him, the other villain, is I don't know his name. He was in The Mask with Jim Carrey. He's the bad guy in The Mask. He's one of the mob guys. But anyways, Judgment Night has a great cast all around, and it's just an intense movie. Everlast, yeah, he's in it. Everlast is in it. He's in it as well. Yep. And it's a great movie. Judgment Night, yeah, definitely watch Judgment Night, Tone. I actually have that as well. I can let you borrow that. I own these movies because I fucking love them because they're great movies. So that's probably what we'll talk about on the next couple of quickies that I'll be hosting. I know, Tone, you got another one coming up pretty quick here too, Tone. Do you want to let us know what you're going to be looking at? Did you figure this out? Have you narrowed it down yet? Let Tone try to figure out what he's going to do so we know what to expect from Tone for his quickie. I do like these quickies, man. I can seriously talk about movies all day. I fucking love movies, and I love that you guys love movies. Next week, you're doing a retro wrestling match. Have you narrowed down which one you're going to do, or are you going to leave that to be a surprise? Okay, you're going. Oh, you're still trying to figure out which one to go with. Okay, next week. I'll probably do mine next week as well. Then I'll try to figure out when Tone's going to do his. I'll start with No Escape first, because I do feel like that one is the one that's a little bit harder to find. And it's difficult for people to check out. But we'll talk about No Escape next week. That's the one we'll do next week. And then after that, we'll take a look at Judgment Night. So we have a couple of good movies lined up here. Tone's got some wrestling stuff coming. That's going to wrap it up here. This is just this is a quickie. I wanted to talk about the Relic, give you guys some idea of what it's about, why I dig it. It's a fun movie to watch. It's unfortunate that Tom Sizemore has turned into a fucking weirdo. So when you watch it, it's hard not to think about it, much like it was difficult to watch movies like Ref or even Seven with Kevin Spacey after the shit that he went through. You're just like, fuck, man, I want to like this movie, but you're a fucking creep. And that's how I kind of feel about this one. But overall, it's our wives can speak on those quickies. What did Tom do? He did a lot. And what's wrong with Kevin Spacey? There's supposedly a lot wrong with him. Go look up. Just go Google Tom Sizemore, and you can see that he's had a rough. He had a rough time in the 2010 to 2020 era. He had a rough time. He was kind of a skeezix. So, but that's gonna do it for this B&B Quickie. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do these. If you guys like what we did here, let us know. Hop over into the Discord. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like. Definitely want to make sure that this is entertaining and a nice compliment to B&B proper. But yes, thank you guys so much for stopping in. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me to have you guys come in here and talk some movies. Next week, we'll talk about No Escape. If there's any way possible you can find that movie, if you can find it anywhere, check it out. And we'll talk about it next week. It's 1994, No Escape. If you're over in the UK, it's probably called Escape from Absalom. If you're in the Discord, I'll post a link to where you can possibly find it. I don't think it's on Prime Digital. I don't think it's on their Tone. I mean, I could look, but it's super difficult to find. It's really difficult to find right now. But hopefully that changes. Hopefully they find a way to distribute here in the States on Blu-ray, because it is a movie that I would love to I'd like to get the No Escape box as opposed to the Escape from Absalom, which just sounds goofy as fuck. Even though that's what he is trying to do. He's trying to escape Absalom. I get it. So, I'm the Dude 79. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great night.